Hello and welcome. As a continuing effort to expand the types of coverage on this channel, today I'm bringing you my very first phone review. And what a choice it is. Today I have with me the CMF Phone 1. Cut from the same pedigree that is the Nothing Phone and OnePlus phones, this phone deserves a conversation. As OnePlus has moved up market, they've introduced the Nothing Phone to the mid-range segment, and here we have the CMF Phone that targets the more budget end of the spectrum. But does budget end mean what we think it all means? Well, stay tuned to find out. But first, a disclaimer. This phone was purchased with my own money and was not provided or loaned to me for review. Thus, all opinions in this video will be wholly my own and none have been privy to editorial review of the content therein. And please click that like button, click the subscribe button, and turn on the notifications by pressing the bell icon so that you're the first to know when there's new content available here. Let's begin. No smartphone review can be complete without dwelling and drooling over the specs, so let's begin there. First, the CPU. The CMF Phone 1 is powered by the 4nm, 8-core, and 5G capable MediaTek Dimensity 7300 running at up to 2.5 GHz, paired with 8 GB of RAM and up to 256 GB of storage. CMF has graciously provided expandability to 2 TB via microSD card slot. Plenty of storage options even for the demanding users. Furthermore, CMF has equipped the Phone 1 with a stunning 6.7-inch 120Hz HDR10 Plus AMOLED display with 700 nits of typical brightness and a phenomenal 2000 nits of peak brightness. Indoors or outdoors, you will not have any complaints about this display. It operates as a resolution of 1080 by 2400 at 395 ppi. Plenty crisp and sharp for even the discerning display aficionados. Also present is a 240Hz touch sampling rate for casual yet responsive gaming. In addition, a 50-megapixel f1.8 Sony rear sensor main camera that can record at up to 4K at 30 FPS is present. And keeping the lights on is a 5000 mAh battery that will easily see you through a full day of usage, withstanding the most demanding of users. And of course, in OnePlus and Nothing fashion, there is fast wired charging here at 33 watts. There's no wireless charging. However, and less common, 5 watts wired reverse charging is available for a quick top-up for your true wireless earbuds or the like. Sadly, as many other brands are doing nowadays, there is no charging bit provided in the box. Though this is a budget phone, it still manages to bring basic water and dust resistance in the form of IP52 certification. One big draw to the OnePlus, Nothing, and of course here the CMF phones is the near-stock Android experience. Considering that many brands have lots of bloatware, or as I dare to say, borderline malware loaded onto their heavily customized Android skins, it's nice to see a focus on a clean and simple interface. That heritage rears its head once again as we see that despite being called the CMF phone, this device actually runs Nothing OS. The one drawback, perhaps, is that being a budget segment device, you only get updates coverage with 2 major Android version updates and 3 years of security updates. Still plenty for most people as the budget segment moves and innovates quite rapidly. Okay, well, if you recall the intro of this video, I stated that this was a budget segment phone. And budget generally means compromises. One of the areas, sadly, still in 2024 that often gets cut in order to meet budget constraints or to reach a certain target price point is the cameras. I do not understand why this is still so, as millions of users now rely on their smartphone cameras as their primary capture device. This is unacceptable. The Dimensity 7300 is plenty fast for daily performance or for navigating around the phone. Opening apps is snappy. You can have quite a few apps open and running in the background thanks to the 8 GB of RAM. You'll be hard-pressed to find slowdowns in normal daily operation. Swiping, loading, opening, closing, scrolling, all are handled by the MediaTek Dimensity 7300 without skipping a beat. It shows that the 4nm Dimensity 7300 is no slouch versus the competition from the Snapdragons. Even streaming 4K content on the phone is smooth. While performance for general and daily use is fantastic, it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to heavier workloads such as gaming. I tested with Age of Empires, Genshin Impact, and Wuthering Waves. I was able to play Age of Empires with ease with a minor occasional slowdown or judder. Genshin and Wuthering played smoothly, although at fairly low visual fidelity. Looking at the settings, the phone is only able to achieve a performance of 30 FPS at medium settings. You can push the phone to 60 FPS mode, however it does tend to heat up and your experience will deteriorate after long periods of continuous gameplay. To test the cameras, I went out for an afternoon in the city and took some photos, landscapes, architecture, etc. As you see the samples run across your screen here, it's important to note that in well-lit outdoor conditions, generally the Sony rear camera does very well. The photos are sharp, good colors, well exposed, and have a good aesthetic feel to them. Not too over-sharpened, extra vivid colors, or any of that Samsung treatment of years past. Even using the 52mm, the close-ups seem to produce nicely detailed pictures with good contrast, good color rendition, and overall pleasing pictures. If your primary purpose is social media posting, then you will do just fine with the optics on board the CMF Phone 1. Then, moving indoors, the camera does fairly well with the occasional blowout in the highlights or in areas where there is far too much light. Still, you're able to get very decent pictures that are very usable and certainly suitable for social media posting. If you're looking for quick shares and not too fussed about the pixel level details, you won't bat an eye. Even selfies using the rear cameras turn out fantastic, and human skin tones and color rendition is quite accurate. And finally, at night, pictures seem to be a mixed bag. Again, the scenario really depends on the lighting conditions, but sometimes the photos really impressed, and in other cases there was light blur, fringing, or other artifacts that were easily noticeable by the most novice of smartphone camera users. The video quality from the main camera is also quite good. Though it only shoots at 4K and 30 FPS, the quality in daylight with good lighting is well exposed, color reproduction is generally good, and noise, although present, is minimal. The skies, water, foliage is all rendered well and pleasant to look at. The colors are not too saturated and there is limited HDR despite claims of HDR capabilities on the phone. There is no mention of any levels of HDR stop, so I'd be hesitant to attempt shooting true HDR with this camera. When zooming in with the 52mm lens, the video is still good but noticeably softer and noisier. It is passable enough for social media sharing, however. And finally, nighttime video is actually quite passable with the main lens. The Sony rear sensor camera is very good and does well in most situations with the occasional fallout in terms of exposure or lens flares. Sound is handled by a single downfiring mono speaker on the Phone 1. Of course, being that this is a budget phone, compromises were certainly made, and this was one of the areas that had to be cut. You don't get a stereo experience as you would with a mid-range phone even. The speakers have a sufficient level of loudness, however at full volume and though fairly clear, the audio does get a bit tinny. Certainly not a deal breaker, though, as taking video calls using the speakerphone to make calls was a good experience, and other party never complained that they weren't able to hear me in even moderately noisy environments. No phone review would be complete without mentioning battery life. The 5000 mAh cell in the Phone 1 keeps lights on all day, and it will see you through a moderate amount of usage with a little juice left to spare before plugging in at night for a 33-watt fast charge top-up. A good performer and sufficient at this price point. After taking a long hard look and a month of usage with this budget smartphone, and despite some of the negatives that I've just mentioned in this review, they are just that. Negative points, but in some cases some nitpicking as well. But none of these in my opinion are deal breakers. As with every device, there will be compromises. And for the most part, CMF here has made acceptable compromises. And if you consider the price segment targeted by this phone, it hits a lot of the right notes right out of the gate. The display, the performance, the unique and standout design, the clean software in the form of Nothing OS, and best of all, that budget price point. Sadly, this phone isn't available for purchase in Canada, at least not directly from the Nothing store. That's a real shame because in Canada, the land of monopolies, we are more limited than ever in phone choice. Down to Apple, Samsung, and Google in that order, with the occasional Motorola, which is also owned by Google, thrown in to keep up the appearances of choice and democracy. Well, that's all I have to say in this video. I hope you enjoyed this content, and if you did, please click the like button. Also click subscribe and tap that notification bell icon to be the first to know when there's new content available here. Subscribing does not cost you anything, but really helps this channel rank on the YouTube algorithm and helps us grow so that we may continue to bring you more content in the future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.